Cher ambassadeur représentant permanent de la France, Monsieur Nicolas de Rivière, et du Sénégal, Monsieur Chek Niang, dear Ambassador Deputy Permanent Representative of Spain, and Miss Ana Jimenez de Laos, and dear Deputy Permanent Representative of Chile, Mr. Claudio Garrido, fellow co-chairs of the United Nations Interagency Task Force on Social Solidarity Economy, CIMEL, honorable guests, speakers, and colleagues, it's a real pleasure and honor to share this UN Task Force SSE event with all of you today. Let me begin by thanking the Permanent Mission of France to the United Nations for hosting this event today and the premise in New York City, where you can see. Grand merci, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur et Sacha, pour nous recevoir. For those of you who are not familiar with the UN Task Force on Social Solidarity Economy, the group was established in 2013, more than 10 years now, to enhance recognition of the role of social solidarity enterprises and organization in sustainable development, to promote the knowledge of social solidarity economy, which I'll call SSE from now on, and consolidate SSE networks, many of them represented on this call, support the establishment of an enabling institutional and policy environment for SSE, and ensure coordination of international efforts and create strengthened partnership. And this one is very important for represented today. Now, it comprises more than 20 international institutions, UN entities, but also the World Bank, the OECD, and 15 civil society organizations engaged in SSE around the world who participate as observers. Recently, the World Health Organization has renewed its membership, and the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia Pacific, better known as ESCAP, and the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, known in English as ECLAC or in Spanish as CEPAL, have both formalized their membership. And we are expecting soon to have the adhesion of UN Habitat, the African Union, and the recently created Ibero-American Network on SSE, RIFES. As you all know, a bit more than a year ago, on 18 April 2022, we started a new journey for the social solidarity economy movement at the global level with the adoption of the UN General Assembly resolution on promoting the social and solidarity economy as a driver for sustainable development, an initiative that was skillfully co-sponsored by Senegal, Chile, and Spain. Many things have happened for the SSE community since then, showing accelerated movement that reflects the impact and soul of that resolution, such as, and I'm not going to be exhaustive, the adoption this summer of the African Union 10-year strategy on social solidarity economy, the adoption in November 2023 of a Council of the European Union recommendation on developing social economy framework condition that recommend to the 27 EU member states to either adopt or update their social economy strategy or integrate the social economy into relevant strategies or other policy initiatives by November 2025 next year, while taking into account, of course, national circumstances. Or the presentation yesterday to the second committee of the first ever United Nations Secretary General report on advancing SSE, which is the result of the work of this task force, of the strong cooperation between the two UN system organizations that co-chair the task force, ILO and UNCTAD, and the collective input of 17 government, 8 UN entities, 6 international organizations, including members and observers of the task force, 1 development bank, and a wide range of stakeholders. The report has been accompanied by the strengthening of the UN task force, as I mentioned, as well as 2 technical working groups that has been created to advance, on the one hand, finance access and support to SSE, and on the other hand, statistics, as well as a new strategic action plan that my co-chair Simel will brief you on. The report introduced yesterday concretely identifies the contribution of the social and solidarity economy to achievement of all sustainable development goals, as well as concrete action areas which are critical to unlocking further potential of the social solidarity economy in its 3 dimensions: social, economic, and environmental. It is of critical importance to act on areas such as access to financial and non-financial support to SSE entities. Why? Many SSE entities such as cooperative, association, foundation, mutual, social enterprises, especially those who are micro-enterprise or SMEs, face additional obstacles in access to capital, and many of them excluded from accessing equity. As you know, cooperative, mutual, and association belong to their members, and their governance is in many cases based on the principle of 1 person equal 1 vote. Therefore, in the context of the external capital injection, it's highly complex, and quasi-equity and patient capital are highly needed to support this ecosystem. By the way, we are also collecting good practices of government that support the access to finance, to capital and SSE through this task force that we've created, as well as tax incentive. And we hope to present that by the end of the year. Therefore, we need to strengthen the finance of projects that actually have social, economic, and environmental impact. And this goes through financing those entities. And in addition, we need to recapitalize multilateral financial institutions and development banks and ensure that we work with them to remove obstacles that they face to finance smaller SSE projects, despite their capacity to produce significant improvement in local communities. This is why we are currently producing a new report on financial and non-financial support to SSE entities. And we are working to mainstream SSE in the upcoming 4th International Financing for Development Conference that will take place in Spain in June-July 2025. We have already submitted input to that effect. We need to support member states wishing to strengthen, introduce, or modernize their legal policies and institutional framework, or to mobilize strategic public procurement, to foster education on SSE entrepreneurship, because there's no one single way of doing business, and SSE forms based on solidarity, democratic or participatory governments, and the primacy of people and the social objective over capital should be on the menu for entrepreneurs in schools, including for the younger generation, which demand a professional career aligned with these values and their values. We also need to better measure the SSE and its contribution to economic development, to job creation, to social impact, to better inform policies and strategies. This is in the context of today's event. Reflect on what we have collectively achieved, but also on what else is needed to achieve our shared vision. Today, among this community devoted to the promotion of their social solidarity economy for sustainable development, we can commit to make this community grow, to unlock the potential of SSE while maintaining a shared vision, a shared understanding of SSE, of its values, principles, and common features. Honorable ambassadors, we are proud of having mobilized some of the best good practices and SSE experts at global level from different regions as Africa, the Americas, Europe, and Asia, for them to share their knowledge, experience, and expectation on the work that the UN system will continue implementing to boost social and solidarity economy. With these introductory remarks, I'm very pleased to give the floor to Ambassador Nicolas de Rivière for his remark. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. You hear me well?
Very well.
Okay. Dear ambassadors, co-chairs of the task force, ladies and gentlemen, it's a true honor for France and for me to be hosting this event. And I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak about a topic dear to my country, who celebrated this year the 10th anniversary of its law on SSE. Firstly, I want to thank you, Mrs. Line, Carpentier, and thank also Mrs. Simelezim, co-chairs of the UN Task Force for SSE from UNCTAD and ILO, for organizing this meeting and for your leadership through the work of the task force and for the presentation of the first SG report on the issue. France is proud to have provided contributions to the report, and we are looking forward to moving the social and solidarity economy agenda a step further together with other member states and partners. We would also like to thank the core group members, and in particular Spain and Senegal, for their engagement. The first GA resolution last year was a crucial milestone for the international recognition of the SSE and its important potential to accelerate sustainable development following the ILO resolution in 2022 and the OECD recommendation on SSE innovation. In spite of being insufficiently recognized, SSE entails an important part of our economies. For instance, in France, it represents 15% of private employment and 10% of GDP. SSE goes beyond the sole economic lens. It is a broader vision, a model for our societies. On one hand, the social front, it places human beings before profits and reduces inequalities notably promoting the reinvestment of earnings and democratic governance. On the other hand, the environmental front, it fosters sustainable production and consumption, as well as circular economy. SSE's richness stems from its great diversity of models and structures, as well as in its flexibility and ability for innovation. All of this opens up many new avenues for making this world a better, more sustainable, and a more human place. SSE is also by nature based on a strong partnership model, working with a variety of stakeholders: civil society, private sector, academics, governments, and international organizations, as we can see today in the panel. In the recent years, we have seen important growth in SSE, with more recognition, policies, and legislation at national and international levels in its favor. However, some challenges remain, which impede the full potential of SSE to accelerate our way toward the SDGs, social justice, and decent work. Under the leadership of Minister Delegate for SSE, Incentives and Profit Sharing, Marie-Agnès Poussier-Winsbach, with our Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs, France's commitment to support SSE and to push this agenda at the international level remains steadfast. SSE is strongly promoted within our international development and sustainable investment policies and programs. We need to provide a better environment for SSE entities in order for them to grow and unlock their full potential. This means working at both national and international level for, one, enhancing laws and regulatory framework, two, harnessing private investment and financial resources by creating adapted support mechanisms such as guarantees, patient capital, tax incentives, and solidarity-based funds. And three, developing statistics on SSE, foster educational curricular skills and research in this field. Looking ahead, we need to keep SSE high on the agenda. France will support and engage in the negotiation of the upcoming resolution in the work of the second committee of the GA. SSE should be mainstreamed in the UN development system, as well as the next relevant milestones, including the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, the World Social Summit, and the UN Second International Year of Cooperatives in 2025. The 7th Global SSE Forum that France will host in Bordeaux in 2025 will bring together SSE partners, including those engaging at the local level. In this regard, I commend the work of the UN Task Force on SSE, and I call on member states and partners to join all efforts to promote SSE along with the task force at bilateral and multilateral level. The more we have SSE, the closer we get to the SDGs. Therefore, let us work together to move this agenda forward. Thank you very much.
Merci, Ambassador de Rivière. And indeed, we need to keep this high on the agenda. And we're very pleased that we have 100 participants online following this event. So I think the interest is there. So thank you for this. I would like now to call on, where did they go? Ambassador, Permanent Representative of Senegal, Mr. Chik Nyang.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, dear colleagues and friends. Nicolas, je voudrais d'abord vous remercier, vous et la mission française, de nous inviter à votre mission, et surtout aussi vous remercier et vous féliciter pour votre engagement à la promotion de l'économie sociale et solidaire. I'm also very happy to be here with the representative of two countries who are fully engaged in the SSE, two champions, Spain and Chile. My thanks also go to Chantal Carpentier for presenting the report and to the task force for initiating this meeting. The adoption by consensus of resolution 77/281 of April 18, 2023 on the SSE by UNGA is a major milestone and reaffirms the place of the SSE as a socio-economic model suited to achieving the SDGs. The SSE is a powerful tool for progress towards the SDGs, and it reconciles economic efficiency, social impact, and respect for the environment. As the SDGs report points out, SSE plays a crucial role in combating poverty, improving health and well-being, reducing inequalities, promoting decent work and economic growth, building sustainable cities and communities, and strengthening partnerships. By putting people and the environment at the heart of their concerns, SSE companies are creating a more inclusive, equitable, and sustainable economy, promoting citizen participation and meeting the needs of the most vulnerable populations. The 6th edition of the World SSE Forum, which was held in Dakar last year, 1 month after the adoption of the above-mentioned resolution, was the occasion for numerous changes, reflections, and proposals, but also for demonstrating that the SSE is today the socio-economic model best suited to achieving the SDGs. The central theme of the forum was the transition from the informal economy to collective and sustainable economies for territories. And more than 5,000 people, mostly women, from over 250 cities and 70 countries took part to the forum. The Dakar Declaration, which emerged from the forum, was designed to help implement the UN resolution and to help build a roadmap together that will also give impetus to the development of structuring policies in territories to achieve the SDGs. In particular, it stresses the need to take into account the specific needs of young people and women and calls for easier access to markets through the sharing of services, expertise, knowledge, and resources. The declaration also calls for cooperation and the creation of platforms for the capitalization, dissemination, and valorization of initiatives, experiences, and knowledge in order to strengthen the capacity of players and decision makers. By promoting social inclusion and implementing fair remuneration practices in the sense of sharing, the SSE helps to reduce wealth disparities and encourage a fair distribution of resources. And the new Senegalese authorities wish to go further in institutionalizing the SSE economy, the SSE as a lever for sustainable, participative, and integrated local development through a project approach and public-private partnership. Now, commenting on the report of the SG, I think there are things which we need really to have in mind. There are, in our view, 9 levers or 9 actions which really need to be retained if we really want to achieve full realization of the SSE throughout the world. I think there are 9 things which we need to do. The first one is to create enabling legal frameworks. I think governments should establish or reform legal frameworks that recognize and protect SSE entities. The second level, I think, is the increase of financial support. We should work to ensure that SSE organizations have access to diverse financial instruments such as social impact investing, microfinance, and public-private partnerships. It is also important, thirdly, to institutionalize the SSE by having member states consider institutionalizing the SSE through dedicated ministries or government departments. I know that this doesn't exist in all countries, but I think it would be good to have that kind of structure in government. Fourthly, I think we need to strengthen data collection and research. We need to invest in building systems for data collection and research on SSE activities. Developing standardized metrics and reporting frameworks will enable policymakers to make informed decisions. Fifth, we must facilitate market access. Government should ensure that SSE entities have access to markets by creating fair procurement processes that prioritize socially responsible enterprises. Sixth, promote SSE in global fora. Advocate SSE in global discussions on development, climate action, and inequality reduction. 7, support local and regional initiatives. Government should also tailor the SSE strategies to local contexts, ensuring that regional and municipal governments have the autonomy and the resources to support initiatives that align with their local needs. 8, empower women and youth. I know it is in the report of the Secretary General, but we really have to pay attention to that, making sure that we can ensure equal access to finance, to markets, but also to decision-making roles. It's very important. And lastly, foster international cooperation. Member states should collaborate with international organizations and NGOs to support SSE development across borders. Sorry to be long, but I really wanted to share these levels which we think are important to advance and promote the SSE. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Niang. And on the contrary, thank you for detailing these 9 levers, which are very important indeed. Many of them, I believe, included, but the empowering of women and youth and the localizing of these strategies at the local level, procurement could be strengthened indeed. So thank you so much for this. And also for, pointing out that the SSE might be one of the best economic model to achieve the SDGs. So thank you for this. It's my pleasure now to give the floor to Deputy Ambassador, Permanent Representative of Spain to the UN, Ms. Ana Jiménez de la Hoz. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you so much for giving me the floor and for the invitation to participate in this very important event. I also join others in thanking very much the Permanent Mission of Spain for hosting us. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur. And also the UN Interagency Task Force for their work and for their presentation. Many of the things that I had in my notes have been already said by the distinguished permanent representatives of France and Senegal. So I think from my side, the first thing that I would like to highlight is the importance for us of the spirit of collaboration when we come to discuss SSE. And I think this event is a very good example because when I was looking through the notes, through the program, it's really a comprehensive event which will give us the opportunity to hear many points of view in the ensuing discussion, and we think this is very important. We are also very grateful for the great participation online, and as we as co-facilitators together with our colleagues from Senegal and Chile embark upon the negotiations of the future resolution that was mentioned here, it is also very important for us to be able to hear different points of views and have really very informed discussion that will then fit into our deliberations. So really thank you very much for this opportunity to start our works as co-facilitators on a very strong ground. Regarding the report, much has been said already and we agree with all of that. We were very grateful and very appreciative about the focus of the report. It's very helpful because it really covers many angles related to SSE with the ultimate goal, as the permanent representative of Senegal pointed out, to achieving Agenda 2030, which I think is the common objective for all of us. We also recognize the role that Spain has played in SSE. We were pioneers on this. We have a law already, a very strong legal framework dating back to 2011, which was also passed with the support of the whole political spectrum in Parliament, and we are embarked upon the implementation of the social economic strategy for 2023-2027. And another thing that I think is very helpful about the report, and was also mentioned before, it that really looks forward to the great opportunities that we will have in 2025 to continue our multilateral discussions in this issue. The fourth conference on financing and development was mentioned, together with the World Social Summit for Sustainable Development and the second International Year of Cooperatives that will also take place in 2025. So I think we had a very good basis first to discuss what we have now, the landscape, the direction of travel, and then to look for opportunities, particularly next year, about how we can consolidate the gains and work on the challenges that have been mentioned already in this meeting. So thank you very much.
Gracias.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Jimenez. And indeed, we're very keen to see how we can engage into these upcoming conferences, the FFD, the Social Summit, the International Youth Cooperative, which also was mentioned by Ambassador de Rivière. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention and thank both the government of France and Spain for the financial support to the task force, because this resolution, as you know, has been adopted within existing resources. So thank you, because we couldn't do the work that we do without your support. So thank you so much to both of you. I'd now like to give the floor to Deputy Ambassador, Permanent Representative of Chile, Mr. Claudio Garrido.
Thank you for giving the floor. Excellencies, Ambassador of France, Senegal, and Spain, distinguished panelists and speaker colleagues, allow me to start by thanking the United Nations Interagency Task Force on Social and Solidarity Economy for your support in putting together this event, and the Permanent Mission of France for hosting us. I would also like to thank Mrs. Carpenter for her remarks. The theme of today's session could not be clearer: unlocking the social and solidarity economy full potential for sustainable development. We gathered this morning not just to reflect on the significance of the Secretary General report, but also to examine the transformative power of social and solidarity economy in our quest for sustainable development economy. Given the growing structural inequalities and growing environmental issues, we must not forget that social and solidarity economy offer a strong alternative that emphasizes the social goals, unity, and mutual aid instead of prioritizing profit maximization with the involvement of various enterprise organizations and other economic entities. Chile is one of the facilitators of the resolution promoting the social and solidarity economy for sustainable development. Firmly believe that the contribution of the SSE extend far beyond economic growth. They play a critical role in promoting social dialogue, enhancing labor rights, and fostering community resilience by supporting local economies and empowering marginalized women and marginalized groups. The SSEs lay the groundwork for social cohesion and cultural diversity. It's particularly vital in our world that often face division and inequality. As we focus on the potential of the SSE, must also recognize its pivotal role in achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The SSE can significantly contribute to legalization of the SDGs by creating decent work opportunities, enhancing access to essential social services, and promoting sustainable economic practices. In doing so, it not only addresses immediate needs, but also paves the way for future that prioritize dignity and respect for all, ensuring no one left behind. Let us also not forget that SSE embodies a unique approach to business, one that underpins transparency, accountability, and participatory governance. By fostering partnerships and networks at local, national, regional, and international levels, we can create an ecosystem where social and solidarity economy act as trade. To achieve this, collective commitment will be needed to implement national, local, and regional strategies that recognize and support the SSE. The Secretary General report sends a strong signal that governments around the world are committed to promoting an economic model that prioritizes people and the planet, and that collective efforts are essential to overcome the significant challenges that remain. Just to mention a few, as previously mentioned, the Ambassador of France, the lack of SSE specific programs in areas such as statistics, research, education, training, as well as access to financial and non-financial resources. Together we can unlock the potential of the social and solidarity economy. It is not only about the fostering economic growth, but it's about creating a just and equitable world for all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Deputy Permanent Representative Garrido. And indeed, the goal here is to leave no one behind, and it is definitely an economy that can help us do that. And I'd be remiss again if I didn't thank the co-facilitator, Chile, Spain, and Senegal for this resolution that you will be supporting again this year. And also mentioning in your intervention, the governance and the just transition role that SSE can help. These are all objectives that are very complex and that SSE can achieve, but somehow when it comes to UN resolution and high-level outcome document, oftentimes this is not recognized in those documents. I would like now to introduce our last speaker, but certainly not the least. You've been mentioning my co-chair, Simel Sim, and I would love to give her the floor to close this opening session. Sima, please come in.
Thank you very much, Chantaline. Excellencies, ladies, gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, and distinguished guests. It's my honor to address you today as co-chair of the task force. And since we established the task force over a decade ago, we have indeed achieved meaningful progress in promoting the SSE, supporting the UNGA resolution of last year, preparing the UNSG report. And this first report was in fact one of the action points on the UNGA resolution of last year. It highlights how SSE contributes to the Sustainable Development Agenda and the global recovery efforts. It demonstrates how SSE entities create jobs, provide critical services that support livelihoods, including in rural and informal economies. It demonstrates how SSE entities help advance food security and sovereignty among indigenous peoples, improve access to affordable care services, and lead green initiatives in renewable energy and waste management. And I think it's important to note with their bottom-up innovations, SSE entities serve as valuable partners to both local and national governments. The report does show steady progress in mainstreaming the SSE into policy processes, programs, education, research, financial and non-financial support systems, and statistic frameworks. While all this is a testament to the progress made, it's also a call for action to governments, UN agencies, and financial institutions to support the scaling up of SSE promotion. And despite progress, key challenges persist. Honorable ambassadors before me have mentioned the need for greater policy coherence, enhanced financing, capacity, visibility. And the report, of course, has some forward-looking recommendations to ensure continued progress. For those of you participating in this session, please read and reflect on the findings of this report. A key point is how UN entities can further implement the resolution and take concrete actions to advance the SSE. And I would like to take a moment to reflect on what that means. The resolution encourages entities of the UN development system to integrate the SSE into their programs and policies. And as co-chair of task force, I call upon our sister UN agencies, especially those with country offices, to join us in helping unlock the potential of the SSE as a key driver for sustainable development. To illustrate how UN entities can lead in this effort, I'd like to share a few highlights from my own agency, the ILO, co-founder, co-chair of the UN Task Force, and the Specialized Agency for Social Justice and Decent Work. Each of our UN agencies have their own strengths, and by focusing on these core areas of expertise, we can collectively unlock the full potential of SSE. And the ILO brings together governments, employers, and workers of 187 member states. It has promoted the SSE since 1919, League of Nations days, with a dedicated unit established since 1920. Consultations with cooperators are enshrined in the ILO Constitution, and a recommendation on cooperatives has existed since 1966, revised more recently in 2002. Our approach relies on developing international labor and statistical standards and supporting their implementation in 107 countries where we have programs and activities. Having an explicit mandate is essential for UN and multilateral entities to effectively promote the SSE, as ILO's resolution, strategy, and action plan on decent work in the SSE demonstrate. These texts provide us with clarity, and as reflected in the tripartite definition developed by the ILO and recognized in the UN resolution. The speakers here, and many of you may know, but I just want to emphasize for those of you who may not, the SSE encompasses co-ops, associations, mutual societies, foundations, social enterprises, self-help groups, and other entities that adhere to its values and principles. This is an important emphasis. These are value and principle-based businesses. The values intrinsic to their functioning include care for people and planet, equality and fairness, interdependence, self-governance, transparency and accountability, and the attainment of decent work and livelihoods. They put into practice the principles of voluntary cooperation and mutual aid, democratic and participatory governance, autonomy and independence, and the principle of people and social purpose over capital. Contributing actively to the UN Task Force is a valuable step for UN entities and international organizations seeking to deepen their work on the SSE. And the ILO is supporting its partners to strengthen their mandate on the SSE, with the African Union's adoption of a 10-year strategy being a key highlight for us. Raising the awareness of general public, including UN staff, is critical for building broader buy-in and ensuring a coherent approach. This year, with Luxembourg government support, financing, the ILO and the task force have developed 4 online self-learning modules in a dozen languages to introduce the SSE and its contributions. While raising awareness is crucial, deeper knowledge and engagement is an essential next step. Ongoing research and policy dialogue across national contexts with the participation of SSE networks is critical for UN and multilateral organization. In Asia, ILO participatory policy research in 5 countries included ASEC as a partner. The AU and ILO are holding national policy dialogues around SSE research, also conducted in 6 countries. Definitions need translation to become practical tools. We are operationalizing the international definition of the SSE both in legal and statistical realms. ILO promotion of cooperatives recommendation has informed 120 member states to reform their laws and policies. In all our efforts, we partner closely with co-op and SSE movements. Currently, we're developing guidance on a decent work approach to SSE legislation. It's based on a legal analysis of 25 countries' laws. Harmonized, comparable, and quality statistics of the SSE and its entities is a key area for showing proof of the progress. And we have developed guidelines on statistics of cooperatives and conducted pilot studies in several countries. These will be available in a compendium and an updated guide for measurement. Last year, also, the International Conference of Labor Statisticians approved a roadmap for SSE statistics with financing from the Korean government, and drawing on a recent evaluation, we are setting up a technical working group on statistics with the task force, and another one with the Committee on the Promotion and Advancement of Cooperatives. Ultimately, however, it's on-the-ground impact that matters. Recognizing to activate the SSE's roles in specific sectors and contexts is what is needed. We have developed as ILO a range of training tools for cooperatives, financial organizations, mutuals, social enterprises with our partners for use by member states. For instance, tools like Think, Start, and Manage Co-op have been tailored to crisis contexts, to care and aquaculture sectors. Oftentimes, these trainings need to be complemented with research and pilot initiatives and financing. Thanks to Italian and Spanish government financing, we are doing this, for instance, for care services and market access. The ability of UN entities to deliver results lies on support from development partners through development cooperation projects, secondments, junior professional officers. These are critical in driving the impact that we are able to report to you today. And I want to highlight 2 partnerships with the Dutch government financing: the Prospects Partnership in forced displacement context, uses SSE entities to improve livelihoods both for refugees and host communities in Africa and Arab states. The Excel project strengthens the role of co-ops and producer organizations in agriculture in accelerating elimination of child labor and enhancing occupational safety and health. With respect to staffing, we have a long-standing secondment arrangement with the Korean Ministry of Finance, and we have a JPO job description announced. These cost-effective and scalable examples are part of a comprehensive approach combining legal frameworks, policy dialogue, and bottom-up innovations. I hope these examples can provide some useful insights in how our other sister UN entities can lead in promoting the SSE. In conclusion, as the task force, we remain committed to advancing this work across the multilateral system and invite all relevant UN entities and international organizations to reflect on how we can further implement the resolution and scale up the SSE globally. We invite governments and development partners to join us in expanding these efforts and invest in SSE promotion. And partnering with us, member states can help scale up efforts successfully. And with your support, we can unlock significant opportunities to promote the SSE, impacting hundreds of thousands of lives and livelihoods. 2025, as International Year of Cooperatives, will bring further attention to how co-op solutions can be applied to different sectors and contexts, and this will benefit the wider SSE more generally. Together, we can build resilient, inclusive economies that prioritize people and planet. Let's work hand in hand to ensure that the SSE becomes a cornerstone of sustainable development where no one is left behind. Thank you, and over to you, Chantaline and Victor.
Thank you so much, Simel. I'm not going to try to repeat all the great presentation and all the great work that ILO does and the example that our sister agencies and entities can take. But I think I just want to highlight the fact that you mentioned on the role of specific sectors. And I think we haven't mentioned, one thing we haven't mentioned is the fact that pretty much every sector, the SSE entities are pretty much active in every sector: the care, the insurance, the health, the finance, the agriculture, the fisheries. And oftentimes we work on these issues, and our sister organizations are working in these areas, but without recognizing sometimes that they are working with SSE entities. And that's one of the challenges that we have to address. With this, dearest Ambassador de Rivière and Niang, Deputy Ambassador Permanent Representative Jimenez de la Hoz, and Deputy Ambassador Permanent Representative of Garrido, and of course, my dear co-chair Simel, I'd like to close this session. Since, I think we were given until 11, so I don't know Victor, because Victor will be chairing the next session. If we have any question in the chat, I haven't seen any, but perhaps what we can do is you move on and we keep a bit more time for more questions towards the end. So I'm delighted to give you the floor, Victor, for this next session.
Well, thank you very much, Chantaline. Thanks again to ambassadors and to Simel. So to both of you as co-chairs of the UN Task Force for your excellent presentations. And indeed, right now we will start a new panel in which we will be talking with experts on social and solidarity economy, because indeed a lot has happened till the UN resolution was approved a bit more than 1 year ago. We have seen a lot of developments, and also the sector itself, SSE stakeholders itself, are committing to implement the UN resolution agenda, and also are going to be pointing out elements that they would like to see the UN system doing to further support the development of the social economy. So I think that we have a very rich roundtable ahead of us. I will try to explain that we have different types of speakers. So we have speakers coming from the public sector, the European Union, notably to explain the Council recommendation on social and solidarity economy that was adopted in November last year. Unfortunately, the African Union is not with us yet, but maybe they will join during the course of the meeting. We also have the World Bank with us, so Ali Rahim from the World Bank to speak about citizen engagement, social sustainability, and inclusion global practice at the World Bank. And then we have many social economy, both policymakers, but also stakeholders that will be, as I was saying, explaining good practices, explaining what are their needs, what are they doing in terms of innovation to support SSE as a driver of the SDGs. So with that, I would like to start by giving the floor to Margit Perko. She's policy officer at the European Commission. She works on legal policy and institutional frameworks for the SSE, and she will be speaking about the Council recommendation on developing framework conditions, social economy framework conditions. So Margit, the floor is yours.
Indeed. Thank you, Victor, and thanks a lot for the invitation. We in the European Commission, of course, appreciate the work that is happening at the UN level very much. There's been a great momentum, and it's very good to see all the progress that you are achieving at the UN level. I'd like to give you a very quick overview of what's happening at the EU level with a focus on the Council recommendation, as Victor mentioned. And for that, I am going to share my screen. And I have to go to the presentation mode. So I hope you should see my screen now with the slides.
It works, yeah.
Our main guiding document is the action plan for the social economy that has been adopted in December 21. And it is a bit of the broader framework for us. It has the three action areas. On the one hand, the framework conditions that we want to improve. Then there is the dimension of recognition and awareness raising. And of course, also the whole dimension on opening up opportunities in terms of funding, business support. And all that is done in collaboration with stakeholders. And you will see on the left-hand side also a bit the timeline, or rather at the bottom. So we had the adoption in 21. Then we had the Council recommendation that was adopted in November 23, with a timeline of 2 years, 24 months for the adoption or updating of strategies. Then there will be a reporting period after 4 years. That means 27. And 5 years later, again, another reporting that would be in 32. Next year, we will have the stock taking for the action plan. That takes a bit of a midterm review where we stand, what we already did, and what is still to be implemented. Because as I said, we have the overall time horizon of 2030 for our action plan. Here you see a bit specific actions that we highlight. We have created this EU Social Economy Gateway. I will copy some links in the chat afterwards. We have the InvestEU program that is mobilizing private investments. We have workshops that support public officials on several topics. Of course, there's the digital and green transition that is also important for the social economy. The skills topic, the regional dimension, the international dimension, the socially responsible procurement. So as you know, it's a very broad topic with very many things to consider. So the key initiatives that we want to highlight is a bit, some things that I've already mentioned. The Youth Entrepreneurship Policy Academy is another one that tries to support youth entrepreneurship in general, and it also includes a strand on the social entrepreneurship, and that's a joint project that we do with the OECD. And there's also the transition pathway. I think there will be a new website launched also to support the collection of pledges. That is also very relevant for the SDGs, especially on the green dimension. And there's also an ongoing initiative on cross-border activities of associations to make it easier for them inside Europe. And now I'm coming to the main part, this Council recommendation. And I would like to just give you this brief overview on which topics are covered. So basically, the member states are all invited to update or devise their strategies for the social economy, or it could also be sectoral strategies where they take into account the social economy to some extent. And it's basically about developing enabling framework conditions, reviewing national policies and legal frameworks. Some member states already have legal frameworks for the social economy, others not yet. And they can look into whether or not they would like to establish such a framework, or if they rather want to do it in other sectorial forms. And because you don't necessarily need new legal forms to support the social economy, our approach is to support whatever works at the national level that comes with different traditions. So we are not dogmatic that there is like one way it needs to be done, but it's really the full diversity that we want to acknowledge and to support also with these framework conditions that we try to approve. It's always important to acknowledge the key principles and features of the social economy. It's better established in some member states than in others. So it's still a lot of awareness raising that needs to happen. And we think it's useful if it comes from EU level, the international level, and also from local stakeholders that want to highlight the potential of the social economy. And of course, there are a number of topics that are highlighted in this council recommendation. One is the access to public and private funding. That's a key topic. The access to markets with procurement that is gaining an importance in the political agenda as we speak now. There's the topic of state aid with some adjustments that are in the pipeline. There's the topic of taxation, where we will look into what can be done to support social economy. Social impact measurement is another topic, and of course, visibility and recognition. So that's a bit the broad menu that we have for the council recommendation. The member states adopted that. So by default, it's a self-commitment to do something on that. And we are now in touch with them to support them and provide support on various levels. And as the last slide, I just want to remind you about the EU Social Economy Gateway, where we basically share information about the social economy in Europe. You will find all sorts of links to resources, to the EU initiatives, but also many other topics in focus, such as state aid or information about how to build a social economy strategy. I think I will also copy that link in the chat, because that might be interesting for you if you are working on a strategy right in that moment. And there is another tool that might also be interesting, that is the Better Entrepreneurship Policy tool, where we have a self-assessment both on inclusive entrepreneurship, but also on social entrepreneurship that can also be used in a wider way for the social economy. That allows, for example, a region to collect a group assessment of how your current framework conditions are, and it can also give you ideas where you could adopt something to improve the framework conditions. So maybe that's also of some interest for you. Yeah, I think that's the main parts from my side. And if you have questions, I'm of course available, and I will stop sharing now if I find the button. Just a second. Stop
Thank you very
sharing.
much. Thank you very much, Margaret, for this presentation. I think that we all know that the European Union is indeed an example in terms of promoting the social and solidarity economy. I think that it's extremely relevant, the fact that member states, 27 member states of the European Union, committed themselves to have a new strategy on social and solidarity economy, or to incorporate SE to existing strategies, or to update their strategies by November next year, so by November 2025. That's quite impressive. And also, beyond what you have mentioned, but beyond what you have presented, because today we wanted to focus on legal and policy frameworks, which is what you have done. Something really interesting about the European Union is also that social economy is one of the 14 pillars of its industrial strategy. So as a sector, it has been identified as one of the key pieces for the European economy to be more sustainable and more resilient, which I think alongside with renewable energies, automotive, and so on and so forth. So I think that that's of course, agri-food system. So I think that that is highly relevant. So thank you very much, Margit. I will say to everybody following us, to the more than 100 people following us, and also to the people in the room in New York in the French Permanent Mission, that if you have any concrete questions to our speakers, please do not hesitate to do them at the end of our session. As we are a bit ahead of time, we might have some minutes at the end for our speakers to reply some questions. So thank you very much again, Margaret. I will now give the floor to Ali Rahim, as I was saying before. Ali is a global lead on civic engagement at the World Bank. We met him through Chantaline Carpentier, to the co-chair of the task force, some days ago. And Ali, it was amazing to find you, because it gives us an interlocutor with the World Bank to speak about social economy, to talk about social economy, and to talk about access to finance for these entities that, as you can see, is high on the agenda of the UN resolution and the UNSD report. So please tell us what you're doing and how we could further cooperate on supporting access to finance for SSE entities.
Thank you so much, Victor, and it's a real pleasure to join all of you today here for this important session. And I think and to work with many of you, Chantaline, thank you very much for having us. And I see Jeru Bilmoria is a very close collaborator who will speak later. And we've been working with many actors on how the social economy should be a part of the international financial architecture reform that's being discussed, and the evolution of the World Bank, which is well underway right now. I think, when we look at the World Bank, of course, our primary role is to fund sovereign governments and also to provide private sector finance in emerging economies. But we increasingly see the importance of social economy actors and a diverse set of actors that exist in that space between the traditional private economy and the governments we support, and the critical role they have in achieving the traditional SDGs, which we've been now supporting for many years, but also in the emerging space of climate finance. And of course, the World Bank is the largest international public source of climate finance today and will grow, and it's a big part of the evolution. So I think we look at that diverse set of actors, associations, cooperative, mutual organizations, foundations, NGOs, voluntary groups, and social enterprises. We're not traditionally designed to work extensively with them through our traditional lending arm, but we have had many programs over the years to collaborate with these kinds of actors. But we see a need to systematize that going forward as we look at the renewal of the IFIs and the international financial architecture more broadly. This group is obviously well aware of the pressing finance need. The World Economic Forum estimated a 1.125 trillion global financing need for the social economy, and leveraging institutions like the World Bank as a scaling agent for the type of social innovations emerging from the social economy is key. The World Bank can play a role in addressing some of the constraints through development policy lending, policy dialogue with governments, its programmatic loans across development areas, with respect to limited access to finance, change in government support and regulation, inadequate fiscal legal frameworks, limited access to procurement processes. And these are all things we're thinking about as we build sort of the next stage of civic citizen engagement and social economy engagement at the bank. We'll be launching a new global program called the CIVIC, the Civil Society and Social Innovation Alliance, which is going to be looking at how we support this and how we try to identify and scale social innovations related to key areas where the bank is trying to scale its support. This will also have an attached financing facility, and we're really thinking about how this can be a catalytic instrument to bridge in the kinds of innovations that make a difference in the large-scale public and private investments we already do. I think it's very important, as our European Commission colleague said, to link this to sort of the key emerging sectors we're thinking of. And I think climate and nature are a core area where the social economy actor roles are key. I'm thinking of an example here that was highlighted in a recent social economy report from the WEF in Indonesia, looking at one of the largest carbon sinks in the world, the Indonesian peatlands, and how to build participatory oversight of the carbon credits that go to these areas. We're thinking a lot at the World Bank today about the integrity of voluntary carbon markets, for example, which will be a huge vehicle for channeling climate finance. It's very hard to envision these markets having high integrity without thinking of the role of social economy actors. In this particular case, it was partnerships with local communities, global networks of NGOs, CSOs, CBOs, that were used to then ensure that the carbon revenues went to activities that protected highly localized ecosystem. In the end, this project protected over 100,000 hectares of peat forest in central Indonesia. That was also the protected home of 5 to 10% of some critical endangered species like the Bornean orangutan. We have many examples like this, including in the digital transition. There's an example of the organization Isoko that worked with rural communities in Africa on digital transformation and financial inclusion, particularly focused on boosting farmer productivity and developing community-based management platforms to track benefits and support community-based projects. 5 million Africans in rural areas now have been supported through this program. So I think the key thing to think about, especially in these frontier sectors as we scale, is how support to social economy actors can be paired to traditional government investments that the World Bank does to ensure that these are supported in concert. The establishment of this new vehicle will in particular also be looking at how we bring civic and more participatory approaches to development finance. So as part of the bank's new corporate scorecard, we will also have, as part of the 20 indicators of the bank's effectiveness, a new indicator on civic and citizen engagement. This will be linked to the new global program I mentioned. So as we move into larger scale public financing, unlocking even larger volumes potential private financing, a lot of it is going to be connected to climate. I think we have to understand how social economy actors will play a critical role in building trust, integrity, oversight, and inclusion. And this requires building systems. It requires new kinds of partnerships between government and social economy actors. So as we move forward, we look forward to working with many of you as we build out this new architecture in the bank and bring a broader set of actors into sort of the renewal of the financial architecture in the World Bank that we are working on right now. So thank you for having us today and look forward to discussing more.
Thank you very much for this presentation, Ali, and for giving us these updates on how the World Bank is seeking for more civic engagement, which is precisely what social and solidarity economy does through the participation of workers in the economy, through the participation of citizens that produce their own renewable energy or that manage collectively biodiversity or that manage collectively agricultural lands. So thanks a million for that. And indeed, I'm pretty confident that the whole UN Task Force and its technical working group on finance access and support is at your disposal to cooperate on what you are currently doing. From you, we will pass the floor to a person, to Claude Dorion. He's Director General of MCA Conseil, Treasurer of ESS International Forum, of Social and Solidarity Economy International Forum. Claude is actually an expert on access to finance and support for SSE entities, and he's going to speak also on how governments support that, how new partnerships with governments are built to support access to finance and support for SSE. Claude, you're from the bar, so it's not a fantastic way of, I guess, joining, but the floor is yours.
Thank you, Victor. It's also a pleasure to talk right after the World Bank. My organization is a bit smaller. I represent a social economy consultancy, a non-profit organization that has been involved for 30 years in supporting social economy enterprises, mostly in Canada, mostly in the province of Quebec, but also in different countries in Africa, as well as Latin America and Europe. I will present a short description of the importance of the technical and financial support network that we built in the province of Quebec, supporting a social economy that is now larger than 11,500 different enterprises, representing some 7% of total employment in an economy of 8 million people. The social economy in Quebec, as in most countries, have a very large contribution in local development, job creation, ensuring and contributing to accessing services for different communities. And we succeed in having this contribution by helping the enterprises to overcome challenges and access barriers toward financing. Victor, you can switch to the next slide. Thank you for the support. From my car, it would have been difficult. Like in many small and medium enterprises, we face financing challenges among the size of the financing that gives a higher cost of management for smaller loans. We face in front of the financial sector the cultural shock of being non-profit organization. They may encounter difficulties in structuring their project since their projects will depend on a certain hybridation of revenues, which makes the business plans more complicated, more complex to build. They have traditionally low access to equity, coming mainly from their members with some limited investment possibilities, and they often have little assets to offer as leverage to the financial sector. Usually we encounter managers of social economy enterprises that have a very deep understanding of their sector of activity, the social challenges that they're trying to overcome, but often they will lack some management expertise, and we have to complement this expertise with external support. And of course, there's also a question of the high cost of managing small loans. We tried in Quebec to build solutions both on the demand side and on the supply side of the financing market. On the demand side, there is a large structure of organization offering training on values and governance of collective enterprises, having a democratic governance structure. We offered specialized technical support on business plans adapted for the social and solidarity economy realities. We offer professional support for management, impact demonstration in order to support capturing a part of public revenues when there is a demonstration of this impact on the communities. And we built a pool of SSE's management specialists dedicated to support the SSE's enterprises. On the supply side solutions, we built a network of some 10 financial institutions that share a common knowledge and understanding of the market and that work together, offering a complementarity of financial products from traditional loans to loan guarantees to quasi-equity or different loans that will have a return depending on the level of revenues of the enterprises. So there is a flexibility on the type of product that are offered to the enterprises to complete their financial needs. And there is a structure that allows the enterprise to scale up with institutions that will accompany them with smaller loans and higher size institutions that will offer products when they get to a larger level of operation. This network of financial institutions present a powerhouse for the social economy in Quebec. We have 4 large actors sharing $1.4 billion of investment and loans to some 5,000 SSEs enterprises, and there is a combination between fully private institutions, like for example the Caisse d'économie solidaire, who is recycling private saving into loan capacity, and there is a totally public enterprise which is called Investissement Québec, which is the government investment arm for private and social economy enterprises, which has a dedicated department especially aimed at social economy enterprises. And we have social economy institutions that have mixed funding, partly from government and partly from savings from the people, allowing to build this complementary supply of financing structure with different products and different size of operations. All this financial support and technical support structure depends on a variable degree on some sort of financial support from the government. The government in Quebec invests in laws and regulation, in tax benefits for workers, investment in social economy enterprises, in networks and federation in order to supply the technical support for the social and solidarity economy enterprises, and to offer this complementary financial project networks. And for the government, the analysis is that this is not expenses toward social economy, but an investment into the capacity of social economy to develop economic development and social services that will bring some fiscal return to the government. So there's a clear demonstration that this is, in fact, an investment that is a winnable strategy from the government, coming from a strong social and political recognition of social economy, coming from a major group of dedicated financial institutions or departments behaving as a formal network, sharing knowledge and getting involved together in different projects, a culture of joint cooperative strategy and action, a mixture of complementary financial and technical support combined with strong autonomy from the organizations, the importance of a sectorial and territorial network bringing expertise in different challenges supporting the enterprises. And all of this is possible because there is this central role of the state in building and financing this ecosystem, bringing local development, job creation, and social cohesion through the activities of social economy enterprises. The public strategy in Quebec is one of leveraging public funds to attract private and social economy and civil society funding and people saving in order to bring a financial capacity to the enterprises with a cost of the loans that will be reduced by a partial involvement from the government. So this strategy of working together between the private sector, the saving of the people, the institutions in social economy, and the government allows us to build this network that support the development of the social economy in Quebec. And we strongly believe that this hybridization of sources and expertise is a main winning strategy to ensure the capacity of social economy to concrete its objective toward overcoming the different challenges of the Sustainable Development Objectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claude, also for the presentation, for joining from your car and going to a meeting. We made an exception with you. Actually, you were not in the agenda on the third place, but as you had a meeting, we decided to give you the floor on the third position. It is important to say that before we were talking about citizens participating actively in the economy by consuming renewable energy and producing renewable energy, by consuming certain types of food, by building their houses in the midst of a housing crisis in many countries, right? So in Quebec, they are also mobilizing their finance. That's what workers' funds do, and then they invest on social impact. So citizens are also mobilizing their money to invest in social economy and in social impact in generally. And I think that this is a global good practice, which is highly interesting, and how the state also incentivizes those types of investments. So thank you very much again, Claude. And from you, I will come back to the original agenda and travel to Asia. So from Quebec to Korea, to give the floor to our colleague Jung-Sik Kim, who is Executive Director of SSE Gov, the Association of Korean Local Governments for SSE. And that organization is also GSEP, so the Global Social Economy Forum, co-chair organization for Asia. Jung-Sik, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Victor, for the introduction, and I'm very much privileged to have an opportunity to intervene at today's discussion. Before I begin, I'd like to give my sincere thanks to all the great work done by the UN Task Force and member states who led the initiative to get the UN resolution passed. I'm going to briefly talk about how the resolution helped local governments in Korea and why local governments are important in promoting the SSE to achieve the SDG goals in the Korean context. As we all agree, the UN resolution on the social and solidarity economy has emerged as a pivotal milestone for sustainable development, not just on the international stage, but also at the national and local level. This is particularly true in the Republic of Korea. South Korea has experienced rapid growth in its social economy sector over the past 15 years. The Secretary General's report identifies a number of factors that contribute to the growth of the SSE sector, which is also the case for the noteworthy expansion of the Korean social economy over the past decade. Specifically, this growth has been made possible through the support of the political leadership, along with the relentless efforts of SSE actors in Korea. While some well-known policy programs have ceased due to the change in political leadership, the Korean SSE sector still holds the front line in sustainable development with diverse, creative approaches in Korea. And the UN resolution serves as a crucial breakwater, preventing adverse changes in policies and institutional structures. Local governments play an important role in the development of Korea's SSE. The activities of SSE organizations are predominantly local-based. Therefore, it is imperative to create local socio-economic conditions that are conducive to SSE organizations promoting the SSE. This necessitates the design of local government policies that align with the principles of the SSE and enable various support mechanisms in cities. Local governments, as a significant economic actors, also engage in actual purchasing. The importance of socially responsible procurement cannot be overstated. If procurement is more open to the participation of SSE organizations, it will significantly boost the growth of the SSE in the city and in the nation. A prime example is Impyeonggu, a city located in the Seoul metropolitan area, whose mayor is the president of SSE GOV. Like many local governments in Korea, Impyeonggu sets an annual purchase target from social economy enterprises. With the active development of purchasing sources, they were able to double the purchase amount in 2023 and 2024. In addition, local governments can collaborate with SSE organizations to provide innovative public services to those in need, thereby achieving the individual goals of the SDGs. For example, social enterprises or cooperatives whose core business is recycling can contribute to reducing waste in cities. One social enterprise in Korea has started a service that collects coffee waste that was previously simply thrown out from cafes or coffee shops. Then this social enterprise turns the coffee waste into bioplastics or biochar. SSE organizations also provide educational opportunities to children who may not otherwise have access to educational support due to their family's economic circumstances. In fact, in about 30 cities in Korea, a social enterprise has worked with local governments to provide educational support services to underprivileged children. In order for city governments to achieve SDG goals through the social and solidarity economy, it is crucial for policymakers and political leaders to better understand the SSE and actively adopt it as a policy tool. Therefore, I'd like to propose that capacity building programs be run for political leaders, especially elected officials such as mayors, at the UN level or through agencies belonging to UNTF SSE. They may be able to hold in-person workshops in one city, such as New York or Geneva. Online education courses can be developed and operated if in-person workshops are not feasible. Given the language barrier to some potential participants, it may also be possible to operate the workshops in cooperation with relevant organizations such as local governments or councils. Such education programs will impress upon political leaders of each country and city the importance of the SSE in achieving the SDGs, as well as the efficacy of the social economy as a policy vehicle. Another suggestion of mine is to share knowledge regarding the best practices more frequently. For an easier time in having policymakers adopt the SSE as a policy agenda, we urge the UN to put more effort and resources into collecting and disseminating best practices around the world, especially cases of good city government policy directly related to achieving the SDGs through the SSE at the local level. As a political joke in Korea says, copying is the best way to make good policies. So many Korean policy programs, national and local, have been developed by benchmarking the best practices of the advanced SSE cities of Paris, Quebec, Bologna, Manchester, Mondragon, Bilbao, and others. So I believe that sharing the best practices of SSE policies will be of significant help to many policymakers and stakeholders. Since sectoral partnerships are critical to the SSE, it would be a good idea to compile and publish a report on the policies of city governments that have solved social problems through these partnerships. Another great idea would be to hold a contest for best practices and award them through UN Task Force SSE. It would also be very helpful for the UN or its agencies to hold online or in-person seminars in cooperation with national or local governments, focusing on introducing their local best practices. Experience over the past few years in Korea has shown that the SSE is an effective and prominent route to achieving the SDG goals in the region, despite the challenges presented by changes in political landscape. It has also shown that international efforts to promote the SSE, such as through the UN resolution, serve as great support for maintaining and renovating SSE policies and legal frameworks for local governments. So we hope this endeavor will continue and the international networks of local governments and those of SSE organizations such as GSTEP will contribute more to this collective effort. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jung-Sik Kim, for this presentation, also for keeping the flame, for supporting local governments in your country, in Korea, to implement new public policies on social economy. And thanks also for recognizing the value of UN developments. The fact that helps local governments to go further, to modernize their strategies on social economy and their support for society. So thank you for that. It demonstrates that the work of the United Nations system is highly useful also on the ground and connected to the ground. From Korea, we travel one of the examples that you put it before, to Mondragon in the north of Spain, in the Basque Country. And we have with us Íñigo Albizuri. He's president of SICOPA and global public affairs leader at Mondragon Corporation. He's going to present us this massive cooperative. It's often presented as the largest worker-owned cooperative in the world, group of worker-owned cooperatives in the world. So please, Íñigo, go ahead, present us what you are doing today and what do you all like to do to commit to this UN agenda and to support this UN, and also what you are expecting from this UN Secretary General report and a possible upcoming UN resolution on SSE. Íñigo, the floor is yours.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much to all of you for the invitation. So, Excellencies, speakers, colleagues, friends. Well, Mondragon, as Victor said, is known because the size for being the biggest industrial COP in the world. But more than that, I would say that it's interesting because we develop all our businesses under the worker COP system model, okay? Because sometimes when we approach to social and solidarity economy, we say, well, we have some constraints in our minds, no? Regarding the kind of business that we can approach, okay? Mondragon is one example that we can do everything from the social and solidarity economy, okay? So this is not only about the small business, this could be about big industry, machinery, retailing, banking, education, wherever you can imagine. And the fact we did it because we didn't know that was impossible, okay? So that's very important because we have to talk about mental constraints, okay? And we still have to fight against those mental constraints. And this is about education. So we were born from the university, okay? People think that we are a big industrial group with a small university, and it's exactly the opposite, okay? We are a small university that using, let's say, industrial means for having our real goal, that is the social transformation, okay? So we are talking about more than 70,000 workers around the world and 11 billion sales, okay? So we have 4 different parts. The first and most important part is education, is knowledge. And we're not only talking about university, because we have primary schools, secondary schools, vocational training schools, and research and development centers, okay? If we take all of those into account, we are talking about more than 25,000 students, okay? So then we have our own bank, okay? That's important. Cooperative bank, but we have our money. Second important issue, okay? Thirdly, we have Eroski, that is a retail group, okay? Very important in terms of employment, okay? And finally, we have industry, but all the kind of industry you can imagine, and not only mainly for feeding European needs, but also with a lot of production facilities in the States, Mexico, Turkey, China, well, all around the world, okay? So, but what about the impact, no? When we talk about this, what does it mean, no? More than just a business. Well, when we talk about this, we strongly believe that more social and solidarity economy or more cooperatives we have, better distribution of the wealth. Okay, so in Guipúzcoa, that is the area where we are, we have one of the lowest Gini index in Europe, okay? And this is exactly because we have a lot of cooperatives there, okay? But I will put you another example, okay? If we take in Basque Country the accidents rate, in the same sector, when we talk about cooperatives, we are talking exactly about 50% of this rate. That's incredible. Why? Because we are owners of our companies and we take care of us. This is the real meaning of the business, okay? When we talk about impact, sometimes we are lost, okay? So the idea is, well, the redistribution is good, but it's much better to have a right distribution from the very beginning, okay? And this is exactly what we are trying to do. And that is about salaries gap between 1 and 6, for example. And it is possible. And we can run our businesses in this way, and we are competitive. So this is important. And Mondragon is a good example. But as a president of CICOPA, I have to say that there are so many other not so big, but very good examples around the world about worker co-ops, no? So Jon Sik, before he has mentioned, we have a lot of things to learn from others, no? We don't need to invent every single day new businesses, new things, we have a lot of best practices that we can take and we can transport to our own communities. And this is the key point, okay? So what we need from UN system and the member states is, well, in terms of legislation, okay, the legislation is very important, but it's not the only thing, okay? We were born under a dictatorship, okay? The legislation was not with us, okay? But we did it. And this is very important because I think that this is a common factor among so many companies, no, that we never wait to UN, to the government, to legislation. If we don't have, we are here for solving problems, community problems, and this is the real driver of our companies. Okay, legislation is really important. Financing, also, we have been talking about tax policy. I think that we deserve a specific tax policy because our goals as a companies and the goals of the governments are exactly the same. We want to develop our communities for better. So if we have the same objectives, we can deserve, we can hope to have special policies for that. And the tax policy is really important. It's really, really important. So when we are talking, for example, about public procurement, no? We always talk about the small and medium enterprises, and that's normal for us. Let's talk also about social and solidarity economic companies. Why not? We all know that we are in the same team. Let's do everything together, okay? The third point, education. The education is so important because we are teaching our students still in a very, very old-fashioned way. That is normally based on capitalistic companies only for having more and more profit. And this is still what we have. So if we want to change them after the university, it's too late, in my opinion, okay? So we need this input that a different way of doing business is possible from primary schools, talking about cooperation, secondary schools, and also university. You will never see an example of a cooperative or a social economy business in the business schools. No, it's not very common. Okay, we need that. Okay, because with all those things we will build up a different culture. Okay. And I have to say you thank you because this that we are doing now is also very important. That is the creation of nets, the contacts, no? To know each other and to understand that there are other ways, other tools, other things going around. Because sometimes the day-by-day operation is so hard that we don't have enough time for doing other things, okay? So I really think that the social and solidarity economic companies, we can be the right partner, okay? So, and I would like to introduce here a different topic, okay? That is, when you look to Mondragon's history, well, we were born after a Spanish Civil War in a very, very bad conditions, no? So now when we are talking about, well, so many difficult situation in Ukraine, in Gaza, in so many other parts of our world. Well, I strongly believe that cooperatives build a better world, okay? So if we want to have better conditions in different parts of the world, especially after conflicts, I think that we really need to approach to the rebuilding process of those countries or areas or communities, taking into account the social and solidarity economy base, okay? This is really important, okay? And during the last year, no, after the UN declaration, I have to say that we have been doing our homework with the Spanish government. Afterwards, probably Jaime Iglesias, that is the Social Economic Commissioner for the Spanish government, will explain. But we have launched an initiative about social economy. That is a social economy hub, okay? That is more or less try to repeat the successful experiences that we already have, okay? Because for years in Mondragon, we have been answering to this question. Do you think that we can repeat? And we used to answer, well, that's inspiring. No, that is not inspiring. We need, the question is, why not? The world deserves more Mondragons, more cooperatives, more Desjardins, more positive experiences. And we really think that we have to face the fact of how to do this. And this is scaling up. We need more cooperatives. We need bigger cooperatives as well. So we will try to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Inigo, for all this information, for this example of social impact of building equality in the ground that Mondragon is, and also of scaling up and having social solidarity economy champions, which is also needed to demonstrate that it's possible, to inspire others, and also to have the size to participate in strategic projects, replicating initiatives that work at the local level. So thank you very much for that. And with that, we travel to southern Spain, where Sandra Moreno, Secretary General of RIPES, is, although she comes from Colombia, from Latin America. Sandra and RIPES is, as many of the speakers before, a very active member of the UN Task Force on Social and Solidarity Economy. And I will ask speakers, and sorry, Sandra and colleagues coming after, because we didn't say it before Inigo spoke, but I mean, we need to be a bit careful with time now, because we have 15 minutes before this panel ends. So Sandra, the floor is yours, and I kindly request you to keep the 6 minutes that we were planning.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Victor. Thank you very much, Simel and Chantaline and your team for bringing forward SSE. So I will try to share just a little bit. Let me see. It's okay, no?
Yes, it works.
Okay, thank you very much. So as you know, we approached to 2030, and the world is still facing a systemic crisis, and the SDGs and the just transitions are seriously threatened. We've been working in RIPES at intercontinental levels for more than 25 years on emancipatory proposals that puts people back at the center of economic policies, building on the long legacy of Black, Indigenous, migrant, peasant, feminist, and working class initiatives that have created solidarity economies for survival. Today, let me highlight several successes on just transitions, care and youth, informal economy, and financing for development. After the ILC debates in 2023, which recognized the need to support SSE in their contribution to a just transition, we concluded that to promote an enabling environment for SSE entities to strengthen their capacity to contribute decisively, the nature and shape of future policy making and implementation processes should be key, and that strong social commitment and consensus is essential, making social dialogue an integral part of policy development and implementation. The ever-growing global food insecurity, rising inequalities, and the triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution are stark reminders that maintaining the status quo is no longer viable. The implementation of complementary policies on just transitions to achieve agroecology and food sovereignty, as expressed in the report we are presenting today, using existing UN instruments such as UNDROP and UNDRIP, can provide a human rights framework from which the SSE becomes much more relevant. RIPES and its member urgency has been part of the negotiations, for example, on the Committee on Food Security's policy on reducing inequalities, and have succeeded in having an entire paragraph dedicated to SSE. It is the first time that a policy document of the UN Committee on Food Security mentions SSE as a solution to food insecurity and to end inequalities. The plenary vote on this document will be the next week on 23rd October. SSE fosters as well local economies, reducing dependency on global supply chains. This promotes sustainable territorial development and strengthens community resilience. In Cameroon, our member RESCAM has recently showcased how SSE structures are playing an essential role in the provision of basic services such as health, education, access to clean water, sanitation, and markets through public community partnerships, and showing that governments should embrace greater reliance on local production as a driver of growth for SSE actors. Let me share two instances from our Asian RIPES member network, ASEC, that has developed a roadmap with strategic actions to establish an ASEAN SSE for SDGs multi-stakeholder working group composed of member organizations in ASEAN countries and like-minded partners of the Asian continental level, such as International Cooperative Alliance, Asia Pacific, HomeNet Southeast Asia, Warfare Trade, and the ASEAN Parliamentary Forum. The SSE platform on cooperativism developed by our members in Thailand establishes digital platforms that are owned and managed by COOP members in line with a broader push for democratic governance and share ownership in the digital economy. RIPES also participated at the ILC Decent Work and the Care Economy General Discussion in June 2024, where we brought our main demands on how to ensure that the SSE plays a crucial role in the development of care economies for both users and providers of care services, particularly vulnerable groups, including workers in the informal economy, migrants, and racialized communities, many of whom are women. The Youth Care Project, developed by RIPES Europe, is strengthening the active citizenship and engagement of the next generation of global caretakers by supporting young people in building a common strategy for a better future. Many SSE organizations prioritize women's empowerment, offering leadership opportunities and equitable pay, like ASEFA South India Women self-help groups in the promotion of livelihoods, finance, social security, and participation in decision-making bodies for women in unorganized sectors. The debate on how to reverse informal employment as a global trend identifies most of the times informality as a result of the lack of productivity. SSE recognizes that cooperative or communal work is essential to achieve what is impossible to achieve individually, which suggests the need to coordination and creation of collective entities capable of developing processes of democratic governance over resources, means of production, or the organization of work itself. To bridge this gap, RIPES Latin American, Caribbean, WSM, and WIGO are currently developing an educational agenda with 8 universities and institutions on popular and social solidarity economy, showing that SSE is also accompanied by operating logics other than profit and accumulation, where the flows of solidarity that derive from family ties, territorial belonging, class status, ethnic or religious affiliation, or the activity itself are a powerful platform for collective action. Finally, SSE contributes to addressing nearly all the cross-cutting issues identified in the Financing for Development Addis Ababa Action Agenda, thus should be recognized inside the Global Financing Framework documents for the next FFD agenda. In 2025, we recommend that domestic and international private business and finance actions support the development of social and solidarity financing mechanisms, such as ethical banking, financial cooperatives, community development banks, community-based savings schemes as alternative to conventional private finance. We recommend as well that the international development cooperation actions, the multilateral development banks, and other international development financial institutions should, in collaboration with the task force, implement operational paragraph number 3 on the role in financing the SSE. For finishing, despite its potential, SSE faces numerous challenges like limited access to funding, policy barriers, and lack of recognition. To overcome these obstacles, we need policy support, where governments should create enabling environments that recognize and support SSE, such as favorable taxation policies and access to public procurement. We need capacity building, providing training and resources that can enhance the skills of SSE actors, helping them to scale their impact and sustainability. And as Deputy Ambassador Ana Jimenez de la Hoz said before, collaboration. Collaboration is key. By building networks among SSE actors, governments, and civil society, we can share resources, knowledge, and best practices. And these partnerships can amplify the impact of SSE initiatives and foster a more integrated approach for achieving the SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sandra, for your presentation and also for RIPA's work promoting SSE at global level, building alliances in many regions of the world, and making things happening on the ground. I think that it's, many of the participants have touched upon access to finance, and Sandra was also speaking about the importance of sharing good practices. Before we were talking about, sorry, is there a question from the room or someone that tried to? No. Okay, so I think one of the main challenges that have been identified indeed is how to capitalize SSE business, how to go beyond traditional loans, traditional finance, right? And I think that good practices as the ones from Quebec, in which there are incentives for the capitalization, cooperatives, mutuals, and other SSE actors are highly important. I mean, SSE doesn't capitalize through injections of capital, it capitalizes through the community, through the members. It can be workers, it can be citizens, and we need to give them incentives. It is a good idea to reflect on giving incentives to them to invest into social and solidarity economy businesses. And with that, I pass the floor to Billy Mora, who is the founder of One Family Foundation and a very well-known social entrepreneur that will give us also her inputs, her insights on the work that the UN system has done and will continue doing. Jeru, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Victor. And first of all, thank you, Chantaline and Simel. You all have done a great job with the record because it's really insightful and it's a landmark, 1 year after the resolution, which many of us pushed. In the resolution, when we first joined the UN task force, one of the things which through Catalyst, One Family Foundation pushed was the inclusion of the term social entrepreneurship. And I think that is really important to recognize. A lot of people have talked about how cooperatives, and they are fantastic. They've been the backbone of society for a very long time, as have been an emerging trend of social entrepreneurs. The World Economic Forum recently published a report, and I think, Chantaline, you were there at the launch of the report, where it shows that social entrepreneurs who are as socially minded as cooperatives, and many of them are not for a profit purpose, but for social change, add 2 trillion, I want to repeat, $2 trillion to the economy, 200 million jobs. So that's the World Economic Forum which came out, and this is very important. Why am I saying that? Because we really need cooperatives, like Sandra said, like other speakers have said, like Inigo said, they are the backbone of solidarity which is there, but we also need social entrepreneurs who are giving innovative solutions to current complex problems, as do we need the whole impact economy sector, which is what Ali has been trying to do through the World Bank. And we need businesses like Cloud talked about. We need a whole array of actors to make the dream of the resolution come through. And therefore, we need to move towards looking at a social innovation economy where we have this larger umbrella, larger tent, where we start working towards social impact, where solidarity is at the core, where we have innovative solutions so we can actually meet the SDGs, and we look at mass-scale job creation. Towards this end, some of the countries actually, with Germany, France, Jaime is over here from Spain, Brazil, other countries at the G20 put together and launched something called the Global Council on Social Innovation. The Global Council on Social Innovation has 5 pre-objectives, many of which you all have talked about. One, it wants to support UNTFSE. It will be the bridge to whatever UNTFSE says. And Chantaline, you've been the big inspiration in making sure that this happens. And Simel, you have influenced a lot of what is happening. So that's fantastic. 2 is it wants to make sure that there is policy happening, especially in developing countries where this is still new and looking at it. So looking at global policy development. Victor has initiated the process of financing with Ali. Actually, we were very instrumental in working with Ali and Civic. and looking at how social innovation can come in, but also looking at alternative forces of financing, not just through taxation, but through additional levies and other parts which are there. 3 is creating a knowledge hub, and Luxembourg wants to support that in a big way and has supported on how we can have best practices which are being there and impact and data which can be looked at. And most important, I think, a common language across this large sector, which can work together towards fulfilling the 100 trillion deficit to meet the SDGs. And respond to emerging market needs in environment, in social, because economy as it was 20 years ago is not economy as it is today. More and more people are in the gig economy and everything is changing. So I think this UNTFSE declaration, the report, and the next resolution which you all are working on pave the way for a new economic order which puts people and planet first, and which looks at the change that all of us need to see. So I've stuck to my 5 minutes. Actually, I made it lesser so that we could have time for the next speakers. Thank you very much, Victor. Thank you, Chantaline Sunel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iru, also for calling up for alliances, right, between all the social and solidarity economy actors which are described in the UN resolution, in the UNSD report, to achieve together social innovation, and also for the actions that you have described and that you are leading at global level, such as this Council, Governments Council on Social Innovation. We have 2 last speakers. One of them is Gianluca Salvatori. He is the CEO, the Secretary General of Eurixe, which is a very well-known cooperative and social and solidarity economy research center. Gianluca has cooperated with CDEC and with the European Union in producing the latest SSE data in Europe, which I think is quite impressive. And Gianluca, I give you the floor to talk a bit about that.
Thank you, Victor, and thank you to you all for all the work that has been done. My point of view is the perspective of a researcher, someone working in a research center as Rixa, and complaining that the visibility of the social and solidarity economy is something that impacts also the field of scientific research, especially in the field of economics, where prevailing theories have adopted a one-sided concept of enterprise and market in which there is no or little room for the social dimension or for the motivations other than profit. This approach has been rampant, as Inigo said, in universities and business schools around the world for decades. So much so that in teaching texts in scientific journals, as well as in the most prestigious international awards, social economy still has a very marginal presence. And this, in turn, has influenced academic and scientific careers. There are far more opportunities for those who follow mainstream strands in economic and social research than for those who devote themselves to social economy, with a progressive displacement effect. This has created a kind of vicious circle. Few scholars devote themselves to social economy because it's a non-mainstream subject, and thus harms career aspirations in academia. But the fact that there are a few researchers makes this subject area even weaker, increasing the imbalance in favor of a mainstream approach. So how to deal with this problem? First of all, I think that the same effort that is put into creating favorable legal frameworks for the social and solidarity economy, or for creating suitable financial instruments for its development, should be put into including the social and solidarity economy in university and school curricula and in research programs. Unless the vicious circle linking university careers to the reproduction of a specific model of economic development designed to maximize profit is broken, the development of the social economy will lack an essential element. And this will translate automatically into the difficulty of finding executives, finding managers capable of correctly interpreting the specificity of the social and solidarity economy, with the consequence, as is often the case today, that social and solidarity economy organizations lack advanced management skills, or that these management skills must be found in a labor market that lacks the necessary knowledge to manage these kind of organizations. And this also applies to civil servants, public administration. Civil servants often, very often, come from a legal or economic background in which they have never encountered the concepts and the organizational forms of the SSE. Consequently, they do not have the tools to consider in their work the characteristics that make the SSE organization different from both a traditional enterprise and a public body. They are accustomed to a world that is represented only in a binary terms, with the state on one side and the market on the other side. And so they find it hard to conceive of entities that are neither. And this is reflected in problems with the application of regulations, even where, in theory, there is legislation favorable to the social and solidarity economy. To me, this makes very clear that working towards legislation that supports the growth of the social economy is only half the job, because it also takes experienced and well-trained officials to actually implement the laws. So, concluding, from this point of view, the United Nations system could set an effective example if it were the first to start training its officials in a non-superficial knowledge of the social and solidarity economy. And by extension, UN could promote the dissemination of this training at the local and national level by promoting social economy literacy programs and encouraging networking between universities and research centers, in a way following the example of what has been done to spread awareness on sustainability in the context of the 2030 agenda. In addition, when choosing the economists it uses for its projects, the UN and its agencies could also take care to include scholars with expertise in social economy. This would be a concrete way to support the development of scientific knowledge in this field. A very final consideration concerns the close link between research and training. If one wants quality training on social economy, this must be fueled by quality research. Education cannot be separated from the work of research, which consists of generating new knowledge with scientific method and independent spirit. The two go hand in hand. Otherwise, education training becomes just a repetition of things already known. And in the long run, they are unable to provide the tools for interpreting and reading reality. Education and research are two sides of the same coin, and every effort to invest in one should be matched by a similar effort in the other. United Nations can play a positive role in this, because if it is true that existing experiences must be strengthened and multiplied, what above all must be overcome is their fragmentation, which conditions their visibility and their effectiveness. In this sense, reference to a common definition, such as the one adopted by the UN resolution, can contribute to an alignment between different approaches, which would help to clarify the field, would help to clarity with respect to discourses that tend to be rather generic as they mix expressions such as social innovation, social entrepreneurship, and impact economy. that's it. I mean, I think that I've run out of my time, so thank you.
Little bit, Gianluca, but it was very interesting. So thanks for that. We are a bit running out of time, and we still have one speaker. I also would like to excuse the absence of the African Union because we were waiting for them. They are in an event, Sabelo Mbokadis, who is a good colleague also of the ILO colleagues, because they have worked together on this 10 years African Union strategy on SSE. He is in Lisbon today, and he had some issues to connect. So it's important to excuse his absence. Thank you very much, Gianluca, for your presentation. And also thanks to you, to the European Union, to FIDIEC for the excellent data on the SSE in Europe that you have provided recently, with 4.3 million social and solidarity economy entities in the European Union that employ more than 11.5 million people, and with a turnover that goes far beyond 912 billion euros in the European Union alone, and only counting certain member states. So that I think, as the report is calling for statistics, and to strengthen the statistics is also important, mentioning the efforts that you are doing in the EU. I will briefly share the video of the last speaker. She is Ana Aguirre. She cannot be with us, so she prepared a short video. She's the president of the ICA, so International Cooperative Alliance Youth Network. So a young person that is going to speak with us. Sorry, because you're going to see my screen, colleagues. She's going to speak about how to support more young people into social solidarity economy and how to support SSE education. Colleagues, are you hearing the sound, or should I share with sound?
But make it please see.
Okay, we'll share again. So apologies for that. Okay. Sure. Just a second, colleagues. I'm sorry for this. I guess.
Worker-owned and co-founder of TaxRX, a worker-owned cooperative that works in strategic.
Very hard to hear.
Training, strategic governance, and organizational transformation, as well as communication. Being a cooperator in my everyday is what really gives me the leverage and the grounding to actually end up representing the cooperative youth globally. The resolution of the UN highlights the outstanding and yet underrepresented and overlooked by many as Suro work that the social and solidarity economy is doing as one of the most aligned sectors in the 2030 agenda. I'm not going to quote part of the resolution, but needless to say, the SSE has a strong examples that deliver in all the 17 SDGs, and we were doing it way before the resolution, not as an exercise of being good, but as a core value of the mission for which we stand. For context, what is the SSE? An international organization that represents the cooperatives and all its sectors, created 130 years ago. Next year, it represents more than 300 umbrella organizations in over 100 countries. One of the committees that has a permanent sitting board is the Youth Committee, and that is how I end up representing the global youth in our sector. The Youth Committee and the values of the cooperative movement and its alignment with the SDGs are a practical matter. In 2022, we approved an action plan for my 4-year tenure that was based on the following. First of all, youth visibility, reaching out both within the movement for young people working in corporate companies and structures, as for corporate entrepreneurs choosing the cooperative model as their structure for entrepreneurial venues, as well as for our youth that may not know the corporate movements yet, but would be interested in aligning choosing it for their future ventures. Then belonging, reinforcing the collective identity transcends individual cooperatives to become one global cooperative movement. This opens young people's eyes to impact and extension of the cooperative movement and fosters the understanding that together we do more and we do better. And also representativity. And I say this very clearly, there is no sector where youth is represented enough. But having a youth representative in some tables is a great start. In this center, we wanted to reinforce the value of youth voices in decision-making spaces, growing beyond representation for youth, and into incorporating representatives of different sectors or regions that happen to be young. The 3 trends that we highlighted back in 2022 were education and training, cooperative entrepreneurship, and IT and technology, and we have certainly stayed on point. We have been active in the development of spaces that ensure skill development and youth connection, launching the Youth Leadership Exchange Program, where small groups of international youth come together to highlight cooperative regions for inspiration. We had one in the Basque Country and in Spain, then another one in the US at the same time as the Impact Conference the year before this one, and one coming up in India right after the Cooperative Congress in Delhi. In the digital scenario, we have contributed to participating in Patio.coop, the network of tech developer cooperatives that gathers more than 1,500 cooperators from more than 25 countries. They lead both by the ICA and FACTIC. It's an example of Principle 6 that is cooperating among cooperatives, but it also looks, if we look at the SDG 17, the alliances. So it's alignment at its best. In our end, we also wanted to highlight the power of education and cooperative entrepreneurship, with global examples like Leadership, Entrepreneurship, and Innovation International, a European undergrad official program in which students learn that social and solidarity economy by actually creating their companies and together, co-ownership and democratic decision making. They work for 4 years making progress happen around the world. Numbers speak for themselves, as all of you know. So 97% of our graduates are employed and 56% create their own company after graduation, most of them with a clear, socially conscious twist. As we see cooperatives certainly build a better world and have been doing it for decades. So let's use this upcoming 2025 International Year of Cooperatives of the UN alongside the resolution by the platforms to launch this and give more visibility to the value and reach of the movement that is not only aligned, but also reads the 2030 agenda.
Okay, so thank you very much for Anna. We are indeed late, so I will immediately give the floor. Sorry, apologies, guys, because my YouTube is going on. There we go. Now it's closed. Sorry for that. We will give the floor now to the 3 people that will be closing these events. I will give the floor in the first place to Jaime Iglesias, who is a good colleague, Special Commissioner for Social and Solidarity Economy of the Spanish government. Jaime, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Victor. Dear colleagues of the Social and Solidarity Economy, dear colleagues in New York, Chantal and Simel, it's a pleasure for me to share this forum with you and to confirm actually that the social economy is more alive than ever. Just 18 months ago, we achieved an important milestone, which was the approval of the first General Assembly resolution on the matter. And since then, we have seen a number of further and additional achievements. These include actually the approval by the African Union of a 10-year strategy or the adoption by the Council of the European Union of its first ever recommendation on social economy that we analyze here today. Last but not least, we have also succeeded in launching the Ibero-American Network for the Promotion of Social and Solidarity Economy, PRIFES, under the great leadership of our Mexican colleagues. We have also seen today that the UN Interagency Task Force is been working extremely hard, and we are all following with great interest the Working Group on Finance Access led by UNCTAD and the efforts to improve the statistics led by ILO. In Spain, as Inigo announced, our Council of Ministers recently approved the creation of a global hub for the social economy in the city of San Sebastián. This center will open its doors in the coming months and aspires to become actually a global reference for the social economy. But also, over the last year, we have also joined forces with UN Trade and Development, UNCTAD, to monitor the implementation of the General Assembly resolution, as Chantal was saying previously, and we have also collaborated with ILO on a project to support the social economy of Palestine. Indeed, the Spanish government has contributed significantly to driving the progress made globally over these past few years, and we want to continue, of course, to be part of the new processes and milestones for the sector in the future. In this regard, we are ready, as announced by our permanent mission in New York, to play an active role in the negotiation process for a new resolution in 2025, with the support, of course, of our colleagues in New York. In view of these negotiations, we would like to mention a few aspects of particular importance to us. First of all, we would like that the General Assembly consolidates the practice of revising the text of the resolution every 2 years. Secondly, we would also hope that the negotiations will be as broad and as representative of the regional and sectorial diversity of the social and solidarity economy as they were in 2023. We are also in favor of strengthening the gender analysis in the text and in our work, as the social and economy is, as you know, a feminized sector which promotes clear feminist leadership. We also want to bring social economy values closer to the youth, to young people, and as Inigo said, to place greater emphasis on the potential of the social economy in post-conflict environments, in community recovery, and in the achievement of gender equitable and sustainable peace and societies. Moreover, and this is perhaps the most important point for us, we would like to collectively move forward with ambition as regards the key debates still pending for the sector. I am referring here to the promotion of legal frameworks in all countries, to funding issues, including taxation and public procurement, and to the need for progress on statistics and training. For instance, we could suggest or encourage UN agencies to help us establish a common statistical methodology for the SSE in this new period. Lastly, we want to make the new Global Hub for the Social Economy available to all SSE families and to you, of course, and we propose holding an international event in the city of San Sebastian in 2026 in collaboration with the different UN agencies to further the debates we just mentioned. In short, you can count in Spain to continue to promote the social and solidarity economy and to offer innovative and constructive approaches and solutions that respond to the needs and singularities of the sector. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Jaime, also for these concrete proposals. And now I give the floor to the UN Task Force Co-Chair, Simel Assim.
Thank you, Victor. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the speakers, participants, our host, the French Permanent Mission to the UN in New York, for all this insightful, inspiring session presentations. The SG report and the contributions we heard today reaffirm the crucial role that the social and solidarity economy can play in advancing sustainable development and the 2030 agenda. The examples shared today showcase how SSE entities are driving innovation for just transition, inclusive, resilient development, including in crisis contexts. We also hear there's a lot more to be done from all these interventions, critical challenges. These were also captured in the report and will most likely be reflected in the upcoming resolution that our member states will be working on around greater policy coherence, strengthened research and education, connecting those two, as Gianluca said, improved access to financial and non-financial support services, and better statistics and statistical frameworks. This is exactly the kind of work we are embarking upon, Jaime. So looking forward, the UN Task Force Strategic Action Plan sets out a clear path for addressing these challenges. As co-chair of the task force at the ILO, we will continue to take the lead in promoting policy coherence and enhancing SSE statistics, and working with the governments, social partners, SSE networks, UN and the multilateral organizations, development partners. We aim to establish the necessary policy and statistical frameworks. And along with the capacity building at all levels, we will also serve as the global knowledge center for the SSE Decent Work and Sustainable Development Nexus. Strong partnerships are at the heart of everything we do. It came out very loud and clear from today's also interventions that working together is key, while also each of us being fully cognizant of our comparative advantages, our institutional mandates, and coming to the table with that. The technical working groups and the collaborations we establish will be critical to implementing the resolutions, the UN resolutions, I'm saying in plural on the SSE. There will be a progress report from the UNSG every 2 years. Each will be highlighting differently how the SSE can be a building block for the new development agenda. Integrating the SSE values and principles of solidarity and mutualism and inclusion. These came out strongly in the pact also for Pact for the Future report. And as we move forward, I encourage all of us to deepen our collaboration to promoting the SSE, recognizing each other's comparative strengths. And together, let's unlock the potential of the SSE, ensuring that its values and principles are at the core of the development strategies. Thank you again for your participation. And let's continue to work together to build a future where no one is left behind. Over to you, Chantaline.
Thank you, Simel, and thank you to you for being such a great collegiate partner in this endeavor. Thank you to the co-facilitators. We wish you from Spain, Chile, and Senegal, we wish you great luck in the resolution. And we do hope that, Jaime, as you mentioned, you will succeed in consolidating that this report is produced every 2 years. And we want to thank France for hosting the meeting, of course, and deep-felt thank you to Margit and Sabelo, Ali, Youngsik, Inigo, Sandra, Claude, Giroux, Gianluca, and Anna, and of course, Victor and the whole team that has been working on organizing this. And thanks to all of you who've traveled the world. You've reminded us how much the SSE needs us just as much as we need the SSE. And more than anything else, we need to pool our strength, as Simel and Jaime said, and several others, to achieve these SDGs and ensure that no one is left behind. And I may be reassured that you won't have a hard time attracting people to San Sebastian for the Global Hub meeting in 2026. I'm pretty sure that won't be an issue. But also, you talk about gender and youth, and I think one of the underestimated value of SSE is the stacking of gender and green. And so, for instance, the one stat that Giroux didn't mention is that 50% of those social enterprises are actually led by women. That's compared to only 1 in 5 for the traditional enterprises. So if we invest in women green enterprises, we're having a double whammy in terms of advancing the SDGs. And this is, let me read, Simel mentioned the Pact for the Future that was adopted 2 weeks ago at the GA. And Action 2.1b talks about taking concrete action to prevent people from falling back into poverty, including by establishing well-designed, sustainable, efficient social protection system for all that are responsive to shock. Action 4.1g, implement effective economic, social, and environmental policies and ensure good governance and transparent institutions to advance sustainable development. And just to name a few, Article 34.1a, scale up investment from all sources and essential services for young people and ensure that their specific needs and priorities are integrated in national, regional, and international development. We could have easily use SSE to do this because that's exactly the essential role that cooperative, association, mutual societies, foundations, social enterprise, self-help group, and other entities are operating in accordance with values and principles consistent with care for people and planet, equality, fairness, interdependence, self-governance, transparency, and accountability, and the attainment of decent work and livelihood are about. We understand that there's still a long way to go before SSE is fully recognized by all, as Gianluca mentioned, as a lever for implementing the SDG, particularly in the poorest countries, those most affected by the crisis and for whom anchoring the SDG is vital. This is just the beginning, and we let's allow ourselves to dream a little. As Giroux said, SSE is a great dream if we want a dream. So let me just reflect perhaps in closing on what we could hope to see achieved during those next 2 years. given the successful negotiation that you will have. Perhaps we could dream that in the FFD outcome, there will be some language about financing the SSE entities to advance actually all of the above in the future, the Pact for the Future. We could also dream that the Climate and Biodiversity Cup, where we will have dedicated session on SSE, will become more aware of the importance of SSE entities in the just transition and sustainable use of biodiversity and creation of sustainable livelihood. Also the creation of new regional network. We saw the Ibero-American one, but there's also others that could be created to cover the whole planet. And on SSE to be more present in the concern of young people in the new technology sector, something I may mention. So this is what we are going to be dreaming about, but we're more than about dreaming, we're about acting, and we will keep raising awareness on these issues among multilateral, bilateral development banks. We hope that you're going to be with us and help us, including Ali. And I can't finish without thanking the whole team, Raymond, Victor, Lola, Matti, and Mansour for the organization of this meeting, Sasha and Xavier and others, but also Lola and Mansour for their great contribution to the Secretary General report. So with this, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's have social and solidarity economy be a greater part so that we can all be better. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We are finalizing the call. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Great job. Thanks. Bye.
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 A few minutes.